Now, each week, have we got the Boddy man on the phone anywhere? Each week, Ron Boddy delivers, and now he has a cult following. Check the spelling on that, by the way. And this week, it's serious. The news on Monday, which was exclusively revealed in The Independent by me, that Great Britain's Olympic coach, Robert McCracken, is no longer, I say no longer, allowed to be in the corner with his Olympic-bound boxers because he holds a pro licence. Now, he's had the Olympic job for 2 years, and he has had the pro licence for about 12 years. Anyway, there is some confusion, some nastiness, and Rob, in my opinion, is out in the cold. Now, I tried to get somebody on from the ABA, but I think, if you want my honest opinion, quite correctly, they thought that at the moment it's a tense situation between the ABA and IEBA, the people that run the international sport and govern the Olympics, the World Championships, the European Championships. They thought it was probably not the best time to go on and into anything that even mildly resembles a slanging match. Now, I've got their facts and figures, and I was present on Monday in central London when the boss of the IEBA, who's a South Korean guy called Dr. Wu, very formidable human being, gave me his version. So before I share with you what I think I know and paraphrase what the ABA is saying, let's get the Boddy man up, Ron Boddy. Ron Boddy, can I ask you first of all, what do you think is the latest, or what do you understand is this situation?
Steve, you've been brave enough. We've run this story. We try to stay away from politics, but when we think it's big, we've gone into it, and you've been good enough to run the story. The situation is, when Paul King wanted to take over IEBA, as it were, the way he went about it, they considered was bad for amateur boxing IEBA, so they were very annoyed. And as we said then, they'll be looking for blood, and they were, and that's why Paul King didn't apply for his job again. Simple as that. But IEBA believe, not just believe, they actually claim that they have evidence that there were other people involved with boxing in Great Britain in that situation, and it wasn't Paul by himself. So basically, they shot an arrow, they deliberately hit Robbie McCracken, but they've only hit him because they're really gunning for other people, and it's just a way to put on a little bit more pressure.
But
having said that, there is one other thing, Steve, is that when Robbie was appointed, and Robbie's a friend of ours, so let's make that clear before we start, and Richie Woodall, it was such a huge thing to put a professional in charge, not to check with IEBA what the rules were and what they had to do, and the fact that neither of those lads, Robbie or Richie Woodall, have got the amateur qualification.
Right, Ron, stop there, because this is what's happened, you see. At first, Ho Kim, who's the chief executive of IEBA, he told me the other day at about 8 o'clock at night in a hotel down by the South Bank, and it was a very sort of hush thing around a table, he told me that that when the form was filled out, when Robbie's licence application was filled out, he told me that it wasn't that Robbie's professional career as a trainer wasn't declared. Well, I've subsequently found out that there's no such thing as a section on this form where it needed to be declared, because wait for it, it hasn't become an issue until this last month. So there's a bit of everyone's moving the goalpost. In fact, it became a rule on the 24th of March. Before the 24th of March, despite what Ho Kim said the other day, which I'm told IEBA press officer Paul O'Neill has acknowledged was Ho Kim jumping the gun. I'm told that there was no rule or regulation. Now, this is when it gets tricky. I believe that completely to be the case. I think Ho Kim jumped the gun. I think a rule came in last year, and I think there's a bit of vindictiveness and a vendetta out there. But now we've got a problem. Those are the facts. Here's what we've got to do, Ron, and this is where you would be fantastic. How do we solve it? We know what the problem is. How do we solve it? How do we get McCracken back in the ring, back in the corner, back in the change room? How do we do it?
I don't think that... First of all, I think it was an unwritten rule initially.
Okay.
And any time that a professional, as in Parisi in Italy, was going to come in and take charge of a team, that it had gone through IEBA first, and they made sure that, he was hothoused through the amateur qualifications, as simple as that, like they would do in football and everything else.
Sure.
As we stated in this, is that this is an arrow to sink other people, really. I think the McCracken's thing can be solved, but it can only be solved by Wu and Ho Kim sitting in a room with somebody like the chairman of ABA England, who are the real governing body of boxing, Keith Walters. And I know that they like Keith. Keith's a grassroots man who's done everything you can do in boxing. They like him. It's a matter of sitting in the room with him, they saying what they don't like, what they do like, and then Keith sorting it out from there. That's really what's got to happen.
Yeah, well, and my understanding is, Ron, that the BOA are now involved. I'm not sure if that's official, but the BOA are now involved. Which is the way to go.
Colin Moynihan's a big boxing man, at any rate, and I like Colin. I know he's had a little bit of up and down
in the last few weeks,
with Lowcog and that, but he is a good guy, Colin, and he will fight the corner, and he'll do the best he can for amateur boxing. But he will listen first, Colin. He won't steam in with both feet. He will listen, and they will get together and get to work. And also, the sports minister Robertson is a boxing man, Hugh Robertson.
Yeah, of course.
They will get behind this, and it will be sorted out. Really, what AIBA are asking is there's certain people that they've got the zig with, and we've actually mentioned that on this show without saying any names, and they're trying to sink those people. It's as simple as that, really.
And poor Robert McCracken here, who's done a fantastic job, who the fighters absolutely love and adore. He's been caught in serious crossfire. It seems to me, Ron, this is. Listen, I know a little bit. I've been going to Europeans, world amateurs for a long time. You and I spent, you and I, we've shared rooms in Houston, in Belfast, all over the world at different amateur events, and it's always a pleasure, despite what people say. It's purely platonic with grown men, but we have to share a room to save money because we've both been skint. In fact, we're probably still skint now. But and Ronnie, you know how to deal with these people, and you've got to deal with them like they do. You've got to sit down, take your time, and you've got to come up with a compromise. You've got to come up with a deal. And the first thing that struck me was, I wonder if this rule, if they could just add a little clause to this rule, so it would become Rule 12.3.1.a. And what about if this rule doesn't apply if the professional trainer, is the national coach?
I think that if the meeting, and I'm sure Keith Walters will meet the two of them, and it will be sorted out. And there'll be somebody else there, like Colin Moynihan. Is that once it's realised that the people that they don't want, that could be got rid of, as it were, AIBA would be satisfied with that. Then they would just say, OK, Robert and Richie are now going to pass the amateur qualifications over a set period of time, and that would be it. I'm sure that would be it.
Yeah.
But they're looking for certain scouts, AIBA. They're gunning for various people, and they won't be satisfied till they get those people.
Yeah, but let me tell you what I think is the big danger here is that if there's any threat of legal action over this needs to be handled in the corridors of IOC and BOA and AIBA power. We both know it. As soon as this goes, as soon as there's any threat of legal action. And obviously what's going to happen here is the BOA or the IOC or somebody needs to look at the way AIBA structure their rules and what are they allowed to do. And are they, was this rule implemented, this rule that excludes Robbie and probably some other guys? You mentioned Parisi there, from Italy. Was this rule introduced democratically as such? Was it introduced legally correct? Listen, Ron, let's move on because as much as this is exciting to you and I, there'll be cab drivers all over turning over and listening to something else, and I can't have that, son.